One of the most common questions that I'm asked by lawyers is how it is that I deal with horizontal gaze nystagmus test evidence or testimony in motions and at trial. One, I believe that there's a pretty varied approach between the tack that you would take at a motions hearing as opposed to a trial. And two, I believe that you have to have some overall understanding as to what it is that the horizontal gaze nystagmus test or the HGN test actually tells the officer and what it is that it doesn't tell the officer. So many times that we're caught up, particularly under Georgia law, in believing that the horizontal gaze nystagmus test can be correlated to a person's actual driving ability. That has never been the case. There is no validation of the test whatsoever to predict your client's ability to drive safely. That is the only thing that the horizontal gaze nystagmus test has ever been shown to do is at some varying degree of percentage of probability that it will predict a person's blood alcohol concentration. And it's not very good at that. If any of you have ever been through a field sobriety training course, you recognize that HGN is actually really, really difficult to see. And it certainly doesn't affect a person's ability to see as they're driving. So what I develop with an officer through cross-examination typically is just very simply, you can't correlate a person's presence of HGN in a person's eyes to their ability to drive safely. And that is, in fact, the reason that they are there in a less safe case. That is, they're alleging that your client had an impaired ability to drive safely as a result of alcohol or drugs, and they're alleging that HGN would support that. In all actuality, HGN does not support that, and there's no validation study that will actually support that conclusion. I would use that as my sort of fundamental cross-examination chapter in examining the officer. Challenge him if he does say it can be correlated to a person's actual driving ability. Challenge him to show you a NHTSA study that would support that conclusion, because I'll show you 2 or 3 studies that don't, in fact, say that in fact you cannot correlate it to actual driving ability. So I think if you use that, you'll have good success with it in dealing with officers who a lot of times are very overzealous and overstating the conclusions that can be drawn from this evidence.